He, okay, here he is. Okay, he just came in. Okay, I got him. There we go. All right, let's see. Let's see if we can bring him in.
Good day, all.
Dr. Munilal, are you hearing us?
I'm hearing you. Are you hearing me?
Yes, loud and clear, loud and clear.
Great, fantastic.
Um, so, so Dr. Munilal, how are you doing?
Fine, fine. All is well. I'm in San Fernando now. Some good weather today, of course. There's a big fat day in Trinidad, but all is well. Thank you.
Good, good afternoon, Dr. Moonilal.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Dr. Munilal, a lot of people have been patiently waiting for you to address the diaspora because we out here when we get a person of your esteem, here on Sunday Talk, Let's Talk Politics. We know you only have about half an hour, and we're gonna try to keep it tight. So Dr. Munilal, tell the people about that situation there in Ramjat and Trace, and make a comparison to what under when the UNC was in power between 2010 to 2015 to currently the PNM now, and how they are treating these residents of Ramjat and Trace.
Well, first, let me say good afternoon to all your listeners, viewers across the world, in the diaspora and outside. And congratulations on a wonderful job you all have been doing in bringing to the fore the issues, the current affairs, and the topical matters that affect the lives of people in Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean, and indeed the diaspora. We had a very sad development week over the last few days, in which a particular very small community in the Tampuna Arima area became the center of national focus when the heavy hand of the state was used via police officers and marshals and so on to demolish and destroy structures that have been erected in those areas. It was a very sad day because we got a viewing of the deep distress and disturbing and emotional situation involving citizens and women and children in particular who had been in occupation of dwelling premises on those lands, and the state had moved in with the brutal force to demolish their structures and so on. I had issued a statement, and just to repeat the tenor of my statement, that the Ministry of Housing, where I served for 10 years, for 5 years, sorry, the Ministry of Housing ought to have worked with the Commissioner of State Lands to ensure that those persons are properly relocated in an emergency situation where they can access emergency housing and get off the lands if it is indeed that they are there illegally. Since then, we have been in touch with lawyers, and the lawyers are telling us that at least three or four of the families may have had legal rights to be on the properties, and that is a matter that they will seek further instruction from. So it was an inhumane and brutal attack on persons in occupation because there are options that one can use to allow persons the opportunity to have at least a roof over their head, if only in an emergency condition. And those facilities are available through the Ministry of Housing. I wanted to say to the listeners as well today that in the 5 years of the People's Partnership, and in the 5 years I had the honor of serving as Minister of Housing, uh, I cannot recall not one single housing unit that was destroyed, that was broken and demolished by the government of the United National Congress. Not one dwelling structure, and certainly where people were in occupation, had been demolished and destroyed when we were there. What we did is we worked with residents and occupiers who who may have been running afoul of the law, and we provided emergency urgent housing units at extremely modest costs to ensure that they can vacate their properties and their dwelling places and so on, but not with the lack of humanity the lack of care and compassion that we saw over the last 72 hours or so.
Now, Dr. Munilal, I don't know if you want to pronounce on this, but today we saw that the COP is no longer in a coalition with the NTA and Hope, and that they are just going with the UNC. You want to comment on that?
Well, as I said before in another forum,
Mm,
the operations of parties, other parties, as opposed to the UNC. The operations of other parties are not generally a cause of my commentary. As a politician and as a student of politics, I keep a keen interest in the machinations of all political parties, whether it's the PNM or others. But I do not get involved or comment. These are parties that have their constitution, their procedures, their guidelines, their principles, and so on. And it is the freedom to associate or not to associate. And if they choose not to associate, that is their right. If they choose to associate, that is their right. The UNC has welcomed any political organization or individuals who share our objectives for a country with a strong commitment to equality, justice, and national unity. And if there are other individuals and organizations that share that commitment and will work with us towards good governance, transparency, accountability, and development, then I'm sure that we can work together, put our shoulders to the wheel to rescue Trinidad and Tobago, given the state that this country is in today.
Now, Dr. Munilal, I'm sure that, I don't know if you could comment on this, right? But I'm sure when I read it in the newspapers today, that the police investigation into the estate management and business development company and live sport, which is being led by British investigator Kate McMahon, a special reserve police, have been shelved. Is there anything you can share, just whatever you could share publicly, because they're saying that it's been shelved?
Well, I awoke this morning to the shocking front page of
Yeah,
the Trinidad Guardian, which I have in my hand now.
right.
And I was taken aback by this most disturbing and alarming headline: corruption cases stalled
Right.
despite $1 billion spent. Investigations into EMBD and live sports shelved due to TTPS delays. I read the story with great interest, to only to discover that indeed it is being claimed that 1 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars have been spent on a witch hunt,
Yeah.
and they have not been able to catch a single witch, and they have paid 50 million TT dollars to one organization out of England, a British investigator by the name of Kate McMahon,
Yes.
and they have received 50 million TT dollars, which I believe is 5 million British pounds.
Yes.
Foreign exchange, incidentally, Forex, they have received that to go after two politicians, namely Anil Roberts and my good self. And in the coming days, I will be speaking in detail on this scandal of scandals. We would like to know exactly where the next $950 million went to. Who did it go to? Which legal firm? Which accounting company? Which individuals connected to government ministers? And according to this story, the civil and criminal cases that they wanted to bill have fallen apart. In fact, the civil matter has not gotten off the ground in about 8 years, and they have spent $1 billion. So here you are saying that the initial alleged scandal was over $200 million, but you spend $1 billion to investigate $200 million. That is a scandal of scandals. And we will be asking strong and pointed questions as to in whose pocket did that $950 million go to? Which are the name the firms, name the companies, name the organizations, name the lawyers who have been working on this matter or not working and collecting millions of dollars, and what is their relationship to current office holders, be it at the office of the president, be it at the prime minister, be it at the cabinet members. These are the questions that this scandal raises so that we can understand carefully what has happened. The civil matters, I'm told, have run up a bill by themselves of almost $600 million, chasing ghosts and chasing witches in this witch hunt. And to this day, the police is saying now that they must shelve those matters because they don't have sufficient evidence to go to a DPP and allow the DPP to take a decision on charging or not charging anyone. We have said from the very beginning, guys, that we support the rule of law. And if there's an investigation, we are there to assist. We are there to work with any investigator. I can tell you, in the years since 2015 to today, 2025, 10 years, no police officer or group of officers or no one has ever contacted me to ask me one single question about the EMBDC, about the my role as minister in charge at that time. They have not asked me one question. In fact, when the police come to me, they ask me if I can help them to buy a printer, if I can help them to supply water to the stations. In fact, quite recently, they needed help to help a special unit in the police service, and they asked me if I can help. When they write me, it is for a donation to a police station. That is when police write me. In fact, they send thank you letters, which I have on file as well. They have never asked me one question. And I want to also tell you, my colleague Anil Roberts has confirmed to me that in 10 years, no police officer or party of police officers has ever approached him with one single question on live sport. So we are, both of us, myself and Anil Roberts, are very concerned about this, and we are going to be raising this matter in the public domain and taking them on frontally as to where this money gone. We have to track the money. And I want to repeat a point that I made before a few months ago. I have been speaking to lawyers and I've been speaking to political colleagues and so on concerning legislation that we might introduce so that when money like this is corrupted out of the system, the politician in particular, the Prime Minister Keith Rowley, Fitzgerald Hines, Stuart Young, Faris Alwari, who had responsibilities in these matters, they must pay out of their pension and gratuity. And Keith Rowley, I am warning him that that $87,000 pension a month could be in jeopardy because we will want to retrieve this $950 million, but when these politicians demit office.
Dr. Munilal, is there a witch hunt by this current led PM Rowley government to go after Dr. Roodal Moonilal and Anil Roberts?
It has been the most expensive witch hunt in history. That is what I want to tell you. It is the most expensive witch hunt in history. And to this day, they cannot reach the point where they can make any claim or any charge or any serious allegations backed up by facts. They cannot, against any former government minister of the United National Congress, including myself and Mr. Anil Roberts. And that has been the disaster here is not the allegations, it's not making claims against people and so on. The disaster here, guys, is that it took $1 billion Trinidad and Tobago dollars spent in foreign exchange that we don't have, spent in foreign exchange, because we haven't spoken yet about international companies that they recruited to do certain investigations and reports and so on that cost millions of US dollars. That is it. In a time when we cannot, could I tell you something? And I'm breaking up a bit of news on your, um, let me break a bit of news on your program now, guys. Would you believe within the last couple days, the president of Trinidad and Tobago and the first gentleman are enjoying a weekend in the southeastern part of the island at a beach facility in Mayaro. They had no water, so they have no water to bathe. They called the Mayaro fire station and asked if they can get assistance with water from the fire station. Now, this is the president and first gentleman, so I mean, there's a certain courtesy that the office requires. I mean, there's a certain courtesy and facility that demands itself from an office like that. Do you know the Mayaro fire station told the president that they have no fire truck and they have no water?
Really?
They then had to get a private company to supply 2 buckets of water to bathe. So we are in a position where, as funny as that may be for the first family, because they
Yeah.
had to beg for water from somewhere, could
Mhm.
you imagine if a fire broke out at a residence with women, children? If a fire broke out at a business place in Mayaro and that entire coast there, Manzanilla, Mayaro, Rio Claro, all about there, a fire breakout, there is not a single fire engine. There is not a single tanker. They don't have a pint, a gallon of water. This is where we are. But $1 billion gone in a witch hunt. So I am saying that Keith Rowley, Heinz, Alwari, and Stuart Young must answer for this.
But Dr. Munilal, what about Petrojam, right? Did they have to go through any procurement as far as Petrojam is concerned with that transaction between Trinidad and Tobago and Petrojam, or
Well,
Parry and Petrojam?
those are the questions we will be asking now, in the context of what we have seen and read and so on, as to what process was used. But I mean, the scandal is obvious. Imagine Trinidad and Tobago 100 years in the oil business, 2 or 3 major boom that we face. Imagine that today we buy 90 million United States dollars, 90 million United States dollars in fuel products from Jamaica that don't have a drop of oil on their soil. When we stand up in the ground, we know deep under our foot it have oil. Today we are buying fuel products. So we have gone back to colonial days. We have gone back to colonial days where we can produce a primary commodity, but send it somewhere else to be refined into products to come back and we buy that from the other person. That is what imperialism and colonialism was built on that. Stuart Young explains that by saying, well, as a CARICOM neighbor, we helping CARICOM. Mr. Manning had a vision to help CARICOM. It was to run a gas pipe up the islands and facilitate development and power to the islands as part of a CARICOM relationship in the economic endeavor. Nothing is wrong with that. That was a vision. It was a clear-cut policy. But we cannot say we improving CARICOM relations by buying fuel products which we were already manufacturing and producing. That is the scandal. And then we don't have foreign exchange to give $200 in foreign exchange in the bank, but $90 million US to buy fuel products from Jamaica. That is a scandal of the highest order.
And I know you only given us half an hour, but just two other questions before you go, right?
Sure, sure.
I'm gonna go with one from the chat. It says questions to Dr. Munilal. Dr. Munilal, we all know that the election boundaries have always been in favor of the PNM. What will be the UNC plans coming into government where it concerns voting and boundaries? By the way, Dr. Munilal, a fellow by the name of Anderson Wilson, he told me to say hello to Dr. Munilal.
Anderson is a known supporter, a friend, and activist, and a extremely dedicated man, and a
Yeah,
very courageous man who has been, out in the front on the front line in our struggle.
he has been in the vineyard. He's been in the vineyard.
He has struggled and worked in the vineyard, and he
Yeah,
continues that. So I wanted to say hello to him. In fact, I think he advertised this program as well.
yeah, he did, he did. So back to the question, right? They say that we all know the election boundaries. This is from Caribbean Soul. We all know the
Sure.
election boundaries have always been in favor of the PNM. What will the UNC plans coming into government where it concerns voting and boundaries?
Well, the first thing is that the EBC Election and Boundaries Commission in Trinidad is an independent institution under the Constitution and the law. So what will happen is that there's a limit as to how much you can, influence in that sense. But I am sure that when we are in office, we will want to have regular interfacing officially with the Elections and Boundaries Commission and to indicate our serious concerns with the manner in which they provide for boundaries in marginal seats in Trinidad and Tobago, because we are on record. In fact, Mrs. Prasad Bisesa has spoken in Parliament quite recently on this matter, where they arbitrarily move polling divisions and so on into marginal seats as if to give a better advantage to the PNM. That is a matter we will raise with the EBC, and we will ask and compel them to give us sound rationale, to give us their explanation, and to ensure that they do not gerrymander constituencies in favor of one party or the other. I will just give you a brief nutshell what happened. Your listeners, those of you who know San Fernando area, may have an idea. There's a seat called San Fernando West, which is a marginal seat. There's a seat called San Fernando East, which is not marginal really. It has been held traditionally by the PNM by a significant majority. And there's a seat called Oropouche East, which is held by the UNC and my good self, which has been a significantly strong UNC seat, a safe seat, so to speak. Do you know when they had to put polling divisions into San Fernando West, instead of taking a boundary from Oropouche East, instead of taking a boundary next to San Fernando in Oropouche East and just moving Oropouche East into San Fernando West, which the boundary is one line on the road, they actually took from Oropouche East, put into San Fernando East, and then throw San Fernando East in a place called Monrepo and so on. Throw San Fernando East into San Fernando West. So you all understand what happened there. So
Yep.
they took the seats from San Fernando East to San Fernando West, and then had to refill San Fernando East, and they took it from Oropouche East. Instead of a direct transfer between Oropouche and San Fernando West, which share a boundary in that Duncan Village, Union Hall, Palmis area, and so on. You could have taken easily the seat from the PDs from Oropouche East, or for that matter, Oropouche West as well, which boundary Bel Air, Gulfview, and all those places in South Trinidad. So that kind of question we will have to raise with the EBC and ensure that we have some transparency and accountability by that important organization.
And finally, before you go, what is
Sure.
your take on the PNM strategy to diversify the economy of Trinidad and Tobago by getting yams from Ghana?
Well, let me put it to you this way. I don't have a clue as to what Dr. Rowley is doing in his last days. When they came into office, they had no plan. For 10 years, they have had no plan. They are clueless. This is the most incompetent government we have had in the history of this country. He started off, if you remember, he wanted to build a plyboard factory. He's ending his days with, I think, 200 seeds of yam. We wish that endeavor all the best and so on. But that is not yam. They're going to plant the seed now because they're doing experimental and scientific work and so on. That is just a kind of mama guy to say that, he went to a trip abroad and the trip yielded 200 seedlings or something like that. So that is just mama guy, old talk. Nothing will happen. The election will come long before we get a pound of yam.
And Doc,
Go ahead, Tommy.
we've had a situation in Trinidad with the Afri-Exim Bank trying to present solutions to helping underprivileged and, should I say, disadvantaged persons that has been turned down by the PNM government. How does the UNC feel about
Just repeat that for me. I didn't hear the entire question.
the Afri-Exim Bank has made a bid to assist the entire Caribbean area,
Yeah.
and Trinidad has, not just Trinidad but also Jamaica, has rejected that effort. What
What is the name of the bank?
Afro
Afri
Exim Bank.
Oh
The
yes,
Afro
yes, I
Exim
read
Bank.
I read that. Well,
Yeah.
I don't know the facts of the matter, but this is a country, as you know, the same Exim Bank of Australia was involved in supporting a loan for the purchase of boats. Um, we work with development banks, we work with export import banks throughout the world, in every corner of the world. Those institutions help because of the conditionalities of borrowing and so on. They help with development, particularly at the grassroots level, because there's a certain principle involved in their work. And I would be very curious to know why the government rejected help from that type of institution.
And last one before you go, just somebody just sent a WhatsApp question. Last one before you go,
Sure,
Dr.
sure.
Munga. Someone says, ask if he knows Petrojam also imports high sulfur diesel from their country. So when they sell to Trinidad as a third party.
They import high sulfur diesel from where? Trinidad?
No, no, no. I'm thinking about from a third country,
Our
maybe
material
from
con- Well,
Venezuela or some other place,
we
you know,
have
and
heard in
then
the
they sell to
yeah,
Trinidad.
we have heard in this public space that
Mhm.
Petrojam has their bankers of one of the financial institutions is linked to a senior cabinet minister in Trinidad. And
Mm.
the bank, one of the financial institutions, the Petrojam, linked by to a cabinet minister in Trinidad through, I think, his relative. And Petrojam is also involved with a Venezuelan company in some type of trade. So it may well be that to avoid the sanctions, the authorities in Trinidad decide to do business with a Jamaican company that is involved in Venezuela to avoid the sanctions, issue of sanctions and reprimand and so on by the United States administration. But this is something I believe that we will be speaking about in the coming days.
Mm. Well, Dr. Munir, I want to thank you so much for giving us half an hour of your time, and I promise you it'll be only half an hour. But any closing words before you go?
Well, all I wanted to tell your viewers, listeners, and those in the diaspora is to express my deepest gratitude and the gratitude of our leader and political party for your support, your unwavering commitment and dedication to our party, but also your commitment to Trinidad and Tobago. I know the love people have from their country, even when they don't reside in their country. I am aware of their love and the power of their interests in in the development of their home nation. And we extend our gratitude. Please join us and support us in our upcoming campaigns. And we are convinced that with your support, we will be able to rescue Trinidad and Tobago at this time. So thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Munir. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, folks, there you have it. Dr. Roodal Moonilal joining us here on WZYE 95.9 FM. We're going to go for a quick break, and when we come back, there'll be more. Stick and stay. It's Sunday Talk. Let's talk politics with Uncle Tommy, Professor Washington. And you. We'll be right back after this. Don't go nowhere.
You're listening to WZYE